It's Ryan again at Dark Winter Moon Boston, and this week I wanted to talk to you about the magical uses and connections with water. And so I decided to deck out the walls and get a little gussied up. All in the theme of water, and talk to you about not only my magical experiences with water throughout my life, but also how to bless your very own sacred water and use it for your ritual purposes. So one of my first magical experiences with water happened when I was probably about 12, and this was way before I got involved in witchcraft or even knew that witches were a real thing. And yet I had this, what I felt like an innate curiosity about magic and being drawn to it and to magical things. Movies, books, anything on magic drew me since before I can even really remember. It's always been a part of my life. And so when I was about 12, my dad owned this pretty large piece of land, and my cousins and I spent a lot of time going all over it, exploring, etc. And on one such occasion, we happened upon this rock that had this depression in it, and it was filled with water. And something about it immediately drew me. But because most of the time anyone that talked about magic or witchcraft or any of that was made fun of, especially at 12 years old, anyone that actually said they believed in it was shunned and shamed. So I kept my mouth shut about how I felt about it. But later, when I was alone, I was able to go back to this place. So on a cloudy, rainy, early autumn day in Arkansas, I ventured out alone and discovered this place again. And the sense as I was approaching it was one of awe. It was as if there was this magic in the air, something drawing me forward to it. And I came upon it, and there was this feeling of silence and reverence and anticipation in the air. And I knelt down by this tiny little pool. It was only about 3 feet, maybe, wide. And I could see the reflection of the sky in it. And for a moment, I just stood there not sure what to do. I had never really done anything magical, but yet I felt compelled to do something. So I took a moment and I gazed into the water, and it felt very much like I was trying to scry. I hoped to see something in the water, yet nothing happened. But there was still this sense of peering deeply into something else and into other. And so then that moment passed, and I thought, what next? And so, following my heart and my intuition, I took off all my clothes and I submerged myself in this water. Granted, it wasn't very deep, but it was enough. So I had this immediate sense of connection, and not only that visceral feeling of the cold water on my skin, which was a bit shocking, but this feeling of energy and power and rightness to it. And I took the water and I splashed it over my head, and I rubbed it on my body, and spent a few moments just feeling it, feeling that experience, allowing myself to be present. It felt very much like an initiation of sorts, and even though I didn't really have any idea what I was doing magically, on an intuitive gut level, I felt like I was attaching myself to something. I felt like I was connecting to something greater than myself. On an intuitive level, I just knew that this was a right act, even if I didn't have the words or the knowledge or the vocabulary to describe what I was doing. I was trusting myself, and it felt right. And if I think back on that, I feel like that was one of the first magical acts that eventually led me to fully pursuing witchcraft. The whole experience probably took maybe 20 minutes, but it forever changed my life. Many years later, when I was on family vacation, we went to Niagara Falls, and I got to experience firsthand the power of an elemental. When I was standing there on the overlook, I just became mesmerized. I could feel the energy in the air and in the ground, you know, from the spray hitting my face from the falls and the rumble in the earth. And I just knew on a visceral, connected level what a powerful elemental felt like. Up until then, I had just read about them in books, and that is one thing. But when you're there and you feel an elemental's presence, especially one of that power, it just makes things connect on a whole different way than reading about it in a book. And it was really cool because it was like I could feel the glee and the excitement of the elemental doing its job, doing its work. It reveled in the power of the water and the experience of the water. It was truly a magical and life-changing experience. I was so caught up in it, in feeling the power and just allowing myself to be present in what I was sensing, that it took several minutes before my family could get my attention and drag me away. Not long after that, I had the privilege to interact with another elemental. Some friends of mine, their parents, owned some land in the hills of Arkansas, and I was invited along with some friends to spend the weekend there. And on this land, there was this magical spring, and the previous owners had built this spring house around it. And it was just amazing walking into that space because the energy there was palatable. Again, I knew I was in the presence of an elemental. Maybe it was to a lesser degree than Niagara Falls, but there was definitely this intuitive heart sense of a spirit that presided over that place. And you could literally feel the energy welling up out of the earth with the water. And I remember the water was very cold, like probably around 52 degrees, and I remember wading out in it, and I really, really wanted to submerge myself completely for a blessing, but I just could not make myself do it. So I opted for getting as far down as I possibly could, which was about here, and splashing water on my head. And even though I couldn't dunk myself completely, I still felt blessed and refreshed and cleansed from the spirit of those holy waters, and being able to touch them and interact with them on not only a physical level, but on an emotional, spiritual level. So the sacred places, the places of power, of water power, they're still in the world. I would guess that most of you wouldn't have to look very far to find them. The key is trusting yourself and following the clues, the breadcrumbs that are strewn before you. I would be willing to bet that there's a special water place that comes to mind immediately that you've found a connection with. And so if you have the need to refresh yourself, to cleanse yourself, to reset, all you have to do is find that special place and touch it. Be present with it. Open your heart and feel it, and allow it to feel you and experience you and commune with you, and you will be refreshed and cleansed and transformed. But what if you cannot do that? What if you don't have a place in mind, or you don't have a way to get to it? Especially now during the pandemic that's still going on, it may be difficult to find that outdoor sacred spring or body of water or experience that will allow you to interact with the element of water in its natural environment. What do you do instead? Now I would like to show you how to bless your own sacred water and in effect create your own sacred spring. So the ingredients that you will need for this are very simple. Obviously, water, salt. I have pink Himalayan, but that's by no means necessary. That's really all you need. I like to use my athame for this, but you can actually use your finger if you need to. And I also am choosing some essential oil. That's also not necessary. I've chosen lavender for this. Lavender is a really great base oil for lots of cleansings. It's pretty versatile in that way. And I'm not only going to show you how to cleanse and purify the water and charge it for magical cleansing and purposes, but I'm also going to show you how I am going to cleanse my pentacle. It's in need of some cleansing. So how about we get started? So the first thing we're going to do is cleanse the salt, or charge it for cleansing the water. So I like, if I'm using an essential oil, like I said, essential oils are not necessary, you can go without them, but if I'm using one, I try to place 3 drops of the oil at hand into the salt. As most of us know, 3 is a sacred and magical number in many religions, and it's no different in witchcraft. And once I have the essential oil in there, I like to mix it up a little bit, kind of distribute the oil evenly throughout the salt. Then we want to charge it. And to do that, I like to use my athame. And so the incantation I like to use is thus. So I place my athame into the salt so that I'm making contact. And I imagine energy flowing from the earth and from the sky into me and down through my arms and through the athame. And as I make a clockwise motion in the salt, I pour that energy into the salt while saying, by the power of the moon that rules all season tides, I charge this salt for the cleansing and purification of all. So mote it be. Sometimes you can even use your fingers and charge it even more, or you can use just your fingers like I said. An athame is not necessary. You can also use a wand. And then I like to take 3 pinches of the salt while saying, by this creature of salt and by the power of the moon that rules all season tides, I charge and purify this water for the purification of all and for my intended purpose. So mote it be. And then, in a very great rite sort of way, I also like to take my athame and place it in the chalice, and also charge the water. By the power of the moon that rules all season tides, and by my own power, and by the power of this creature of salt, I bless and charge this water for the purification of all. May it be a sacred spring, a well fount, a wellspring, for the blessing and purification of all. So mote it be. And so now, I can cleanse my pentacle. So I'm going to first place it into another vessel. So I'm going to use some of this water for something else. Oh, mustn't forget the chain. So It's important too. O creature of water, by your power to cleanse all things, I ask that you cleanse my pentacle, to purify it for my continued use, and to dedicate it to my continued use. So would it be. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to let this soak probably overnight. You could also put it in moonlight to charge and continue to purify it in the water. I may leave it for 3 nights. I'm not sure, but that is definitely a possibility. So now you have your own sacred spring. A blessed bit of water that you can use to asperge or scatter around your space to cleanse it, or cleanse objects with it. You can also place objects in it to cleanse. There are many things that you can do with your own wellspring. So there you have it. That's a simple way that you can bring the power of water into your magical practice. So even if you're unable to get out to that spring or experience the presence of an elemental, you can create your own sacred water as a tool to use in your craft. I really appreciate everyone joining me today. I enjoy making these videos. I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Likes and subscribes are very helpful. You can find my website at darkwintermoon.boston, or find me on Instagram at dark.winter.moon. And as always, have a wonderful weekend and blessed be.